If you want to know how to get your dream car in China without having to pay all in cash and getting your own loan as a foreigner without having any connections with Chinese people, stay tuned for this video and I'll show you exactly how to do so. We will be interviewing Edward, who is an entrepreneur who sells premium used cars in Guangzhou, and he knows the process very well. So let's go. Hello everyone, so here I am with Edward, who is a business owner of many businesses in Guangzhou, in particular reselling cars and his company MomoStick. And in this interview, we're going to go through details on how you can buy a used car in Guangzhou as a foreigner. Anyways, Edward, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I've been in China for 5 years now. My whole family is here, so that's how I came here. And I realized that China has a lot of opportunities that I previously did not know of. And coming here just made me realize that probably this is the place to be in. So I guess, yeah, I'll just continue to stay.
It's kind of inspiring seeing a bunch of expats come to China and start their own business and be very successful. So I'm really interested to know about the details about buying a used car in Guangzhou. Okay, so picture this scenario. I'm a foreigner coming to Guangzhou for the first time. I found a job, I found an apartment. My next stop is to get transportation, and I want to drive a car. I don't want to take public transportation. Can you kind of explain the process of how that would look like for a foreigner?
So personally, in my opinion, when you are trying to spend a substantial amount of money to buy something, I think you shouldn't pay full in cash. Because for me, cash flow is very important. So naturally, if you're trying to purchase a car, I think you would want an installment from a bank. Now, I've tried, even as a business owner, it is near impossible to purchase a new car under installment, unless you pay full in cash, which I think is stupid. So used cars only recently, especially in Guangdong province, in Guangzhou, that now certain financial institutions are allowing foreigners to purchase car under installment that is up to 70%, which applies the same for locals. So, but for this, the specific criteria is you need to have a company that is under your name, that you are the legal representative that have been existed for more than a year. And second, you will need a Chinese driver's license. But if you do not have one, then it can be changed with your respective country's driver's license into a temporary driver's license, which can also be used.
So I can agree with everything that he said. Getting a loan in China, even if it's in Guangzhou, in a big city like Guangzhou, is very difficult. The most I've been able to get myself is a credit card in China. And I had to go through loads of paperwork and signatures to actually finally get that credit card. So I can just imagine a loan. But Edward here found a way to finance your needs if you're buying something large like a car or a house. He did mention that you need a driver's license to actually buy a car from him and qualify for the loan. If you don't know how to get a driver's license in China, you can follow this video up here. I'll put it in the info card or in the description down below. Also, if you want a temporary driver's license, I also go through in detail how to get a temporary driver's license. It's as simple as getting your driver's license from back home, getting a translation, going to the DMV, and getting like a 3-month to maybe 3-year, depending on your visa. So the next step, I've decided I want to buy a car. I have a Chinese driver's license. Now I actually want to get the loan. How does that process look like for you?
Well, as I said, you will need a company under your name. But a lot of foreigners, they do not even have a company to begin with. And for those who do not have a company, we can get your company and let you be the legal representative. And with this company requirement, driver's license requirements, you gotta select a car that you like, and obviously you'd have to check the condition of this vehicle and go through all the paperwork. And then once you like the car, we will get you the installment first before you actually pay that 30% down payment. So company, driver's license, and the third thing we need is your credit rating. A lot of foreigners, their credit rating will be 0. You do not have any asset, you don't have any debt. So that is how we begin. 0 means it's good to go, yeah? And then we need your telephone record of the last 6 months to ensure that you were in a specific city in China where your temporary residence permit resides. So for example, if your temporary residence permit is in Guangzhou, then we need your phone record of the last 6 months that is in Guangzhou.
And that may be overwhelming to some of you guys, but just realize when issuing loans, especially to non-permanent residents or citizens, they need to make sure you're trackable so that you don't just leave the country and like never pay back your debt. So these are just steps in place to protect not only the buyer, but also the seller when it comes to these services. So that's an interesting point that Edward makes, that you can, let's say you don't own a company. Like in my case, I actually work for a company. I've been in China for almost 3 years now, and I've worked for a company that whole time. Let's say I don't own a company. Well, Edward can provide this service where he can help you purchase a company that's been running for 1 or 2 years under your name so that you can go ahead and get financed immediately. Now, just note that in his case, 70% will be loan and 30% will be down payment for the cost. So if the car costs 100,000 RMB, you would have to put up 30,000 RMB up front, and then 70,000 RMB will be used for the installment. Okay, so once you get approved for the loan, how long do you have to pay it back, and typically what are the rates?
It is for used vehicles, the maximum duration is 3 years. And in average, it's about 6.2% interest rate per annum, which is comparatively higher than a new vehicle, which is about at 4%.
Okay, so another point I wanted to point out is when you drive in China, you need to have the right license plate to drive in China. So for example, if you want to drive in Beijing, you should have a Beijing license plate to drive in Beijing. There may be some restrictions on what time of the week you can drive that car, but a pain point that some customers may have is that they don't have a Guangzhou license plate because the application process can be kind of confusing and difficult for foreigners. So how do you help foreigners in this case when they need to look for a license plate?
Okay, when you have successfully purchased the car and you got that loan, now the next thing you got to get is a plate number. Now, the plate number, unlike other countries, it comes under your name permanently. So for example, you purchase a car and the number that came up with the car, it's owned by the previous owner. So you got to get your own number. Now, if say your temporary residence permit is in Guangzhou and you want to apply for a Guangzhou plate number. Now in China, every foreigner is allowed to have up to 1 plate number under their name. So you want a Guangzhou plate, that's good. But you need about 2 months to get this plate number. So during this time, are you going to drive the car at all, or you will be given another number to drive? We will give you another number to drive, which is a permanent number, a permanent Guangzhou number that you can drive until you get your own plate number to be substituted. But this number is owned by our company, so we can let you drive it for a fee, but you have to be very careful not to get in traffic tickets.
And if you're not familiar with getting a license plate in China, particularly in Guangzhou, there's 2 ways you can get it. The first one is to go to the online system, either on WeChat or on the website, and you can attend a bidding. Think of it as like a lottery. Now, the downside about this lottery is that they publish new plates every month. I think it's like the end of the month where they publish new plates that you may be able to get one of those plate numbers, but you have to wait if you don't get called for 1 month. So then it could take from 1 month to 2 years based on how lucky your draw is to see if they picked your name to have the next license plate. Or there's another fee you can do at the DMV where you can pay maybe between 20 to 40,000 RMB. This fee changes based on the city you're in. I'm just talking about Guangzhou. And they can give you a plate immediately, and you don't have to get a lottery plate, as I would call it. So that's another method to get a plate as well. Okay, so some of my subscribers have asked me, hey, I want to sell used cars in China in my home country. Can you kind of explain the process of how that look like and if you can help them?
Right now, we got demands from Africa, Latin America, and Southeast Asia, and majority of them, they try to purchase a used Chinese electric vehicle that is about a 2 to 3 year old cars. Now for this, it is near impossible to be able to be a company to export used cars to overseas. It's a very tedious process. But unless you are planning to purchase 100 to 1,000 cars a month, it is not issue for us to ship perhaps 1 to 2 cars daily.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, if you're not an established company and you just want to buy maybe 1 to 2 cars every purchase, it's possible. If you want to go to larger distribution channels, And then you need an actual export license, which is a long process. So if it's for personal use, like 1 or 2 cars, Edward can help you out with that transaction. Okay, can you share some of your worst experiences you've had buying secondhand cars in China?
I guess it's similar to what every other country, people say don't trust used car sellers, right? I mean, they tell you it's all good, it's in a good condition, and then when you buy, just, I don't know, through a short period of time, you try to face a lot of problems. But if you are in their shoes, you have just purchased the car from someone else, and then you are trying to sell it to a new customer, like, how can you guarantee that the car is good? It's used car, so there are repercussions that you have to face, and it's the consequences that you have to deal with on your own. However, I would suggest for people to purchase from a company that is well established or has been around for a while and has a lot of inventory, because these kind of companies are able to guarantee 2 things. One is the engine and the transmission. They'll give you a warranty for up to 12 months. And these 2 things are the main component that you do not want to have trouble with, because it is very expensive and time consuming for you to fix this. So with these 2, and now the third thing is have to be very aware of. In Guangdong province especially, now is rainy season, and there has been a lot of flooding. And now, just last month, there were 80,000 cars being flooded, and those are relatively new cars. And now it is coming out in the market. I mean, people say it should be scrapped, it cannot be used, but now it's coming out in the market. So it's relatively new car, interior, it looks great, they washed up, and you see the car is great, but once it is flooded, the car actually cannot be used. Big companies, established companies, they know for a fact that to not purchase a flooded car to resell it. So they will also give you a warranty that after you purchase the car, you go to any, for example, you buy a Benz, right? And then you go to the Ford store, and then they will check from top to bottom if this car has any problems, engine issues, transmission issues, and whether this car has been flooded, because there is a way to check. And if it is found that it was indeed flooded, then the companies will give you a full refund.
Okay, so let's say like I have a connection in Guangzhou. I know a mechanic that can do this inspection for me. Would you recommend some foreigners to bring their personal mechanic to check the car before buying it?
I would suggest you to bring the vehicle to the Ford store to have it thoroughly checked instead of just any individual mechanic.
So if you had to provide some of the biggest tips that you had to give foreigners on buying their used car in China for the first time, what would you tell them?
I would say don't buy a car that is too old, because I got friends that they want to drive a branded vehicle, but they do not want to pay so much money. Obviously, you want a branded car, but you don't want to pay so much money. You got to go to purchase a car that is probably more than 10 years old. And in my experience, I have lived in a lot of countries, and I've experienced a lot of used cars in those countries. And I realized Chinese used cars is not as bad as what people say. It is relatively in a better condition than the cars for example, used cars in Southeast Asia. When it's old, it's a machine. It tends to cause trouble. So unless you are ready to fix whatever problems that comes, I have to tell you, it's not only going to cost you money, it's going to cost you time. You're going to have to park the car there at times for a month or 2. Are you really ready to face that? Because it's very troublesome. I've done that. It's either now that you can get loan, you can try to increase your budget range to get a car that is below 10 years old, if not below 5 years, and you get that warranty for engine, transmission, and to ensure that it was never flooded, and also to get it checked at the Ford stores. Yeah, and then I think it's really good to go.
Yeah, I think that's some really good advice. You know that saying, you get what you pay for. And there's a lot of hidden costs with used cars. Like I experienced this in other countries where if I buy like a beater, as we would call it, like less than $1,000, $2,000 car, you're going to spend so much money on maintenance and after repair costs. Like it's just not worth it. So you've done business with a lot of foreigners before in this kind of industry. What are some of the biggest mistakes you see them do?
I would say it's always the money. It is hard to explain to people that in their idea is a used car, you should be very, very cheap. If you try to purchase a car, let's say for 30,000, I can tell you I cannot get you. It is possible. It's like 16-year-old car, which I would not want to give you because I know how much problems is gonna come through time. Again, I have to say, if you really want to buy a good car, the price has to go up, man. And then there has less chance of having troubles with the car, and especially you being a foreigner, I don't think you would want to go to mechanic by yourself. When they see you are a foreigner, even no matter how good your Chinese is, there will be issues with the pricing that you are not going to be happy about. So I would say you got to pay good money for a car that you are not going to face issues for the next few years down the road.
And I kind of want to add to his point on why cars are so expensive in China, especially branded cars, because he sells cars like Porsches and Benz, right? And these are used cars in the market. Well, to get a Benz into China, like you're exporting a Benz into China, there are a lot of sales fees. Just to give you a bit of a reference, if I were to buy a car in the United States for $100,000, by the time it actually gets inside China, past inspections, I have already paid a total of $200,000, almost twice the value of the car, just getting it from the United States into China. So you can imagine they're accounting for that sales cost. So it's not like you're going to find famous brands at a very cheap price in China. They're going to be quite expensive. So if you had to give a price range on the types of vehicles that you sell for foreigners to buy a good used car, what would that price range be?
Now in China, since early 2020, the sales tax for used cars have been scrapped. This was a government move to get the used car sales rolling because people were facing backlashes in their businesses. They are losing money, they're selling the cars. So I think now is a good time for people to go into buying used cars because there's no tax. And because of being no tax, the price of used cars have been reduced slightly. Now, the cars that we deal in is mostly German vehicles because German vehicles, it has less problems in general and it has a longer durability. All the spare parts are expensive, but once you have it replaced, you're good to use it for another 10 years. But those costs of buying a German vehicle that is, let's say generally a C-Class, that for a 5-year-old C-Class, which is in good condition with the warranties, it would come about, without the plate number, about 150,000.
RMB?
Yeah, 150,000 RMB. And for the SUVs, which people now tend to prefer nowadays, good SUVs I would suggest like Porsche Macan or Cayenne, but those are a bit on the high end. For let's say a Macan with a 3-year-old Macan, they'll go about $500,000. Yeah, and it is still under warranty by the 4S stores in Porsche Guangzhou.
Yeah, so Ever definitely provides a more affordable way to have nice cars that have been slightly used in a decent price range. Let me just tell you another example. If you want to buy a brand new SUV Audi in China, brand new, straight from the lot, you can expect the price between 800,000 to over $1 million. I've seen over $1 million RMB. It's crazy the pricing they have for new cars. So 150,000 for a C-Class, that's actually not that bad, even in other standards as well. So that's a pretty good deal. Okay, so I'm sure my viewers and subscribers want to know, hey, I want to buy a new used car. How can I get in contact with you? What is the best way to reach you?
Well, in China, I would say if for those expatriates who are already in China, I'm sure we all use WeChat. So, I mean, email is obsolete, so I guess WeChat is the best way to contact.
Anything you want to leave with the audience before we wrap this up?
Well, I have a lot of people try to purchase cars, and now that they are able to get installments, they're very happy. They're very eager to buy one because they've always wanted to buy one. But one thing is, a foreigner to purchase a new car here is almost impossible unless you pay full in cash. Now, that is out of the question. You want to buy used cars, installments was very hard up until now. So what they did was they get a Chinese name. to purchase the car on behalf of them. But this will cause problems. For example, I mean, a friend would possibly not do it, I guess, unless it's your girlfriend or wife. But if it's not your wife, then the person will be very hesitant to lend a name for you to purchase a car while you drive it. Let's say you get into a severe accident, the car owner will be liable. So all this was a problem back then. But now, this problem is solved. I have to tell you one thing. People come to me, they want cheap cars. They want good and cheap cars. It is not possible. Good and cheap cars, I have to tell you, it's impossible. If you want a branded car, C-Class is good to start. Used Benz is comparatively better than BMW, Audi. A used C-Class 150K, you just pay 50K up front and then a 100K loan. 100K loan for 3 years, you're paying like 3,000 to 4,000 a month. So if you can do it, I think, yeah, you should definitely go for it.
Yeah, this is very valuable information. Thank you for your time, Edward. I hope the audience found some value in this video. I hope this brings you one step closer on getting your dream car in China as a foreigner without having to worry about having a Chinese person get a loan for you. You can do it yourself. I hope you keep surviving, and I'll catch you in the next video.